Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. Hey, welcome to another episode of Daybreak Live. My name's Krissi. I'm with Positively Osceola. And today we have a very special guest with us. Everyone, please say hello to Alex Moore. Hi, Alex.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. We're so excited to chat with you about your show, about what's going on, and I want to hear all about it. So thanks for hopping on today.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Are your students there right now?
I have students out in the lobby. Students are, we're in the middle of our school day, so students are working on their in-class performances they have coming up this week. So, of course, we have a show happening, and we have still their assignments in class as well. So it's a
Okay.
busy week.
Okay, so we might hear some kids in the background.
Yeah, you might get to hear some performing happening in the background.
Oh, nice. I was just telling Alex that my dogs are right beside me and they're just staring at me. So who knows what kind of sounds that y'all are going to hear today. If you are watching live, would you do us a favor and pop in the comments and just say, "Hey, what's up?" Or if you have questions or you want to ask Alex something, just put it in the comments so we can see it. Um, let's make it official. Let's do it.
All right.
That was kind of epic, wasn't it?
I loved it. It felt so official.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Okay, so if you're just hopping on live, hello, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Daybreak Live. My name's Krissi. I'm with Positively Osceola, and today we are joined by a very special guest. This is Alex Moore. He is the theater director of the theater department at St. Cloud High School, and we are so happy you are here. So thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's always been great to having Positively Osceola come in person, meeting with you guys, and all the work that you do to share out arts education in Osceola County.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, theater is a near and dear of mine. I actually did a whole bunch of theater in high school, and it was one of my majors in college. So when we chat about theater and the arts, I'm just always so into it because it's my passion, it's my thing. I love
Yeah.
performing. So yeah, I'm excited to chat about it. So first of all, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about your background and just like what's your story? How did you get into theater?
Yeah, I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. I was born and raised there, and I was put into an acting class my freshman year. It was not a class that I was overly excited to be in. As a freshman in high school, I was like 6'2", and everyone immediately thought that I was older, and I just felt completely awkward in who I was and in my body. And I was put into this acting class and was given a monologue and scenes and things I had to say, and I didn't want to be there. Um, and and I always make that connection with my students too, that I'm like, I understand. And I stayed, and my counselor and my mom and my family were like, no, you're staying, you're not going anywhere. And I finally let go, and I realized what I could learn from the class, even though it was not at all something that was on my radar. And then finally, by second semester, I went out, and some friends encouraged me to try out for Grease. Was our musical that year, and I was cast as the nerd, Eugene, and they put me in a giant yellow suit, so I looked like Big Bird in a 1950s tux. Um, and that hooked me. Like I was there and went out for every single show after that and was a part. And then my parents started getting involved, and it really became my core friend group and my social life. And I would usually be there working lights or working on costumes or set or something, instead of going to like homecoming or instead of football games.
Aw.
It became my space. And so I had always known that I wanted to be a teacher. And by senior year, I realized, I was like, wait a minite, I could be a theater teacher. Because both could exist. And so went to college in Southern Illinois, Edwardsville, and started to go for a teacher and took a break. Went out to be moved over and studied acting as my major instead, because I was like, really, I wanted some time away to go out and to go be an actor, to go be a director, and then come back and teach. And so graduated back in 2007, moved to Chicago and worked as an actor, a director, ran a theater company in Chicago, and just had amazing experiences working for some phenomenal theater companies and making friends up there. And then after about 5 years, it felt like time. So I moved back home to St. Louis, got my theater education certification, and then it was kind of a waiting game to find a theater job. And after about 1.5 years, my theater teacher called me and she said, "I'm retiring. Would you want to apply?"
No way.
And so I was like, yes. And so sent over my information right away. And then went through the interview process, and I was like, what an amazing experience this would be. And so it was about a week of just like nervous, like, is this going to happen? And it did. I got to go in, and they had just built a brand new performing arts facility there. And I got to go in and work with the students as we opened up that facility and getting to reshape how that program worked, especially a program that changed my life. So I worked there for 4 years, getting to create and shape that world and do some amazing shows. The first show that I did there was actually Diary of Anne Frank. And then 4 years ago now, made the move to Florida for some teaching opportunities. And now here I am, getting to work as a teacher and also a director and actor. I've done stuff down at Osceola Arts.
Dang. So, like, how crazy that it kind of worked out like that, where you were inspired, you lived basically your entire adult life, and now you've come back full circle, and now you're inspiring other students, and you're changing the lives of everyone involved, and that is so beautiful. What a great story. And man, so now you're just sharing it, and I love that.
Yeah, it's all of my life and all those connections have always been like very fortunate things. I was in St. Louis and I received a grant to go to London, and I got to study at the Globe Theatre, Shakespeare's Theatre in London for 3 weeks over the summer.
Amazing.
And I met someone, she was across the room, and she said that she was a theater teacher in Orlando, and we immediately clicked. And so we started talking, and we spent the entire 3 weeks just talking about our programs and dreams and shows and things that we were going to teach and how we were going to teach this. And then at the end, I was like, oh man, I just met like a really great friend, and she lives in a city I'd never been to, in a state I had never been to. And she contacted me like 6 months later, and she said that her teacher, her co-teacher was leaving, and asked if my family wanted to move, and was offered that there would be some positions open for my husband, and maybe finding me a job down here as well. And so completely changed that. We're like, well, why not move to Florida? Why not move to Orlando? And so having that opportunity, that everything connects and how it all works out. I've stopped questioning the universe, because it always works out, and it always brings in some amazing opportunities.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And speaking of an amazing opportunity, you are doing a very, very touching show, The Diary of Anne Frank. And so let's just hear a little bit about that show specifically, and what that means to you.
Yeah, Diary of Anne Frank, like I mentioned, it was the first show I directed back in 2014 in St. Louis. And as we were going through the process, I knew that this was a show I was going to come back to probably every 8 to 10 years, because the messages, because of Anne's words, because of the connection to our history classes, our literature classes. 8th grade students typically read the diary. And for the performers and the crew and the technicians working on the show, having a chance to study real life people and real life stories becomes such an interesting acting exercise, and also just in-depth research of this time period. So all of those experiences, I always knew, I was like, this show will come back for me. And so as we were wrapping up last year and looking at, again, I look at shows like, what do the students need? And having this show, I was like, it's time to bring this show back. A show that has so much hope and so much love, and looks at a time that families, that this new family was created between the Van Dans and the Franks.
Yep.
To live and to do whatever they could to keep their family safe. It felt like just a very important time. And I was currently, back in April, I was rehearsing a show at Osceola Arts that I was in, and I was driving home late at night after the theater, and there was a Holocaust survivor that they were interviewing on the BBC radio.
Oh, wow.
And she asked a question that has stuck with me every day of rehearsal and ultimately made me sit down and read the show, which was, how many stories do we actually know? How many Holocaust stories do we know? And she was like, yes, we know The Diary of Anne Frank. We know Night by Elie Wiesel. We know a few stories here and there, but of the 6 million people who died, how many do we know?
Yeah.
And so that became a very, very big question for me as I was going into this, and doing that research of, I don't know enough, and that our students don't know enough, and that we as individuals don't. And so even in our poster and even at the show, has been a huge commitment to bringing that it's not just one story, but this is representing the 6 million plus all of the others who survived or who were allies or who were a part of this experience.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Because there's so much that's unknown. And like she said, I mean, how many stories are there and how many do we actually know, So yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
insane. And this is a big show. You have a lot of kids working. I mean, how many students do you have working a part of this show?
Yeah, for this show, we have right around 105 students working on the show. The cast is a cast of 13. Yeah, it's a cast of 13. And we got into auditions, and some shows I'm happy when I can cast all 13 roles. But we got into auditions, and we had over 60 kids auditioned. And wow. Having to say yes to 13, only 13, seemed so challenging. So we double cast the show. We have a maroon and a gold cast, our school colors. We have maroon and gold cast. So both shows, depending on the nights that you come, are double cast.
Oh, wow.
And then we start thinking about how do we say yes to other students? How do we make a home for as many kids as we can? So we came up with, we have an acting ensemble, which is a lot of students who they were doing research of Holocaust survivors or families who died in the Holocaust, and they wrote monologues about those experiences. They found photos of those people, and then they recorded those monologues. And out in our lobby during the show, you can scan a QR code and it takes you to their performance.
So we have some of those performances
and seeing actual images of those people. And then we also have, perfect timing with this photo. We also have a vocal ensemble of about 10 people, 10 vocalists that is student conducted, student run. We have student instrumentalists as well. And just behind the set, where you see the slats, we have those students who are there as sort of that visual representation of the other, of the people whose voices were silenced and who were, who did not have a diary, who did not have their stories remembered. So throughout the show, we hear these voices and we see these shadows coming through. So we get some really, really fun and heartbreaking moments of some Hebrew, some traditional Hebrew songs, some lullabies, and some other work that they created. So that's all on the acting side, which makes up about 35 to 40 students. And then the other 60 come in our amazing tech crew. Mr. Scover, who's our tech director, has been running a crew that has been doing student lighting design, student set construction. Everything you see here has been student painted, student built. 100% of this set has been teaching the students the construction techniques and how to get this show up on its feet. Plus getting all of the electrics and the wiring and the lighting and the front of house displays, the costumes. There's over 150 costume pieces in the show. So there's lots and lots of stuff that is 100% student done. As we tell them, we know how to do this. We have experience in doing it. Now it's their turn. We know how to hang lights and do lighting design and program lights. We know how to paint and build the set. This is for them to do.
Right.
And even on the directing side, I consider myself more of a producer and a director, that I am there and I'm in the room and I get to give notes. But I also have two amazing freshmen who stepped up and they've been the assistant directors in the room. Because we have two casts, I can't always be in the room. So we have the maroon cast one place, the gold cast another, and they're giving the notes. They're the ones who are helping to shape the show and take it to a whole new level, which has been really amazing.
That is so neat. I love how you're just integrating every single student and every single piece. And I think that that's wonderful because that's how you create a community and that's how you make a kid feel welcome and a part of it and like they're a part of a family for sure.
Yeah, we have such a strong arts program between vocal music and instrumental, dance. Yesterday we had our all-day rehearsal and all of the different teachers had their students in watching some of the rehearsals and bringing their kids in.
Cool.
But we also have all of those kids in the show in some way, shape, or form. That one of the dance students, who's also a Golden Girl here at St. Cloud, she's playing Anne Frank. She's one of our Anne Franks. Students who are in orchestra and marching band are also balancing their schedule that, Thursdays they're playing the game, the football game, or Fridays they're playing the football game, but then other days they're in rehearsal with me. So we're a very interconnected department. Plus we have students who are in athletics and a part of other clubs and other organizations and work that we're teaching those balance and life scheduling as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's like what they're going to have to know in the future. They have to be able to balance all of that. What a wonderful educational just experience all around. And speaking of educational, I feel like this time period is something that, it's 2021. We don't always go over the Holocaust. So why is it important now that kids nowadays and adults, if they don't know, why is it important that this time period is chosen?
Yeah, it again goes back to that. How many stories do we know? How did people let this happen? And that's one of the big questions the students had, was that they were like, how did this happen? And so early on in the process, we started generating those questions of how did it happen? What happened? What is the timeline? How did this affect not only the characters in the play, but other people in and around Europe? And then again, I put that to the students. Let's go and research it. Let's go and look and see and find and come back and you present us this information. And they did. They did a wonderful job, sometimes educating me, sometimes helping each other to just understand what are the components of how do we all of a sudden start to marginalize, separate, and then ultimately exterminate one group of people. And because there was a really powerful quote that I did not write down, but we have it in our lobby. When you come into the lobby, we have two quotes that are facing each other. On one side, we have, and it's a picture of Anne Frank, and it's a quote of hers talking about wanting to go on living even after her death and how important her words are. And on the other side is a picture of Hitler. And that he said that ultimately the erasing and the forgetting and the long-term goal of wiping away is the end goal. And so we have those two of Anne wanting to be remembered for her words and Hitler and the Nazi Party wanting to wipe out and remove that. And a really important thing that the students said was, ultimately, is that plan starting to win? Which hit everyone in the room of this idea that people are starting to forget that we're losing Holocaust survivors, we're losing families who had that connection to a primary source, to someone who was there, to someone who heard these stories. And so it's that good reminder that we need to go back and we need to find. And students were finding even on TikTok that there's Holocaust survivors who are posting on TikTok, and Holocaust survivors who are telling their stories in other platforms to reach their age group, which was, again, fascinating. I did the show when I was in high school, and we never had that much connection to survivors and to survivor stories. So just hearing how they're starting to find those connections and how the school is starting to find those connections has become really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. And so what would you say that the audiences should expect to see? Like, what like if kids were coming to the show or parents, what should they expect?
So whenever if I'm at Goodwill going to buy costumes, or I was at Publix and was buying some of the food props for the show, and they would usually ask, like, what's all this for? And I would say, oh, I'm doing a play. Usually they'd be like, oh, how exciting, what's the play? And then I would say Diary of Anne Frank, and they'd go, oh, and immediately go like, oh, it's so sad. I think that the surprising thing for audiences is the amount of hope and humor and laughter and life is in this show, that we as an audience, we know the ending, we know the story, but there is a family there that had struggles that we sometimes see ourselves in, that students are like, oh, this reminds me of my grandparents, or this reminds me of someone else, that we find that these they're real people. As I reminded the actresses playing Anne Frank, I said, Anne Frank was a real teenage girl. Imagine that she wrote her thoughts down. I was like, imagine if a parent or someone 80 years from now went through and read your text messages or read some of your posts on social media or Instagram. Yeah. I was like, that's, there's a similarity there of, she was writing down her experiences, and sometimes she felt certain ways and she felt strongly about ways. And so making sure that we're making these human, real characters, not just characters from a book or from a diary, or making them precious or making it sentimental. Because if we play the end of the show, we miss out on so much humor and so much life and so much celebration of who they were and how close they were to making it. Is part of the heart, is some of the payoff at the end of that emotional experience of they were so close and they almost made it. So yeah, there's a lot of life, there's a lot of humor, there's joy, which are all things that we don't initially associate with Anne Frank, but it's there. Even in our set colors, we're intentional. Our poster colors, having that purple, having that a bit more romantic. Anne says in the play and in her diary that it's both romantic and dangerous. And that's part of our overall design of everything, is that it has those moments of beautiful poetry and beautiful writing, but then there's always that threat of who's going to come through, and also how exposed they were. Again, the set is very skeletal, that you can see through everything. Yeah. They were very exposed, all except for one door kept them out, kept the other out until the end.
That's so crazy to think about. I remember seeing this show when I was in high school, and it was beautiful. There was a little bit of everything, just like you said. There was really happy parts, there was hilarious parts, there were some serious parts, there were some sad parts. You get a little bit of everything, and I remember seeing it and being touched by it 100%. So if people wanted to see it, how do they get tickets, or what do they do? Like, where do they go?
Tickets are on sale now. You can purchase online at the St. Cloud, if you go through the St. Cloud website, or just down there below at stcloudhs.booktix.com. You can purchase either Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 7 p.m. or Sunday at 2 p.m. So we have 4 performances right here at St. Cloud High School in the Susan E. Hill Performing Arts Center. We have an amazing theater. There's a wonderful view. The acoustics are fantastic. And again, you can purchase tickets, come in. We've got 733 seats, so there is space for audiences to give a little more elbow room or spread out to socially distance, but to just come out and be able to enjoy live theater again. It's great to just be able to sit back and be in a theater.
Yes, live theater and also just being a part of the arts, especially at St. Cloud High School, right?
Yeah, being a part of educational theater. Oh, there's the bell for school. But educational theater, we're a school that's 95% funded by ticket sales. So the sales from this show go to fund our spring musical.
Wow.
So, and then we have 5% that's student production fees and other things, but 95% of it is from audience ticket sales and audiences coming to enjoy the show.
Okay, so you heard him. If you want to get tickets, you can visit right down there, stcloudhs.booktix.com. St. Cloud High School has their own Facebook page, and the theater department has their own page, so you can definitely check all that out. You can visit positivelyosceola.com. We've been streaming about it, talking about it, and so we want everyone to go because this is going to just be such a touching show. And I know both of his casts are ready and all of his crew. So tomorrow's the big night, right?
Yes. Thursday night is opening night. We are excited.
Amazing. Well, I hope everyone breaks tons of legs and has an amazing time. This is so special. So thank you so much for joining us today. You have been so fun to chat with, and you're like bringing back my inner theater nerd back into so
yeah.
For bringing
Come over anytime. We'll be glad to have you.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and we're going to end the show now and just play the little video out. So thank you again, Alex, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.